'Tis the season to shine with H&M. Discover the holiday collection and find fashionable pieces for your wardrobe or for under the tree. Get inspired and dazzle with this year's glam. From tuxedo styles, bow detailed pieces, impressive prints, and more. From unforgettable looks to unforgettable gifts. With fashion finds to home decor, find it all at H&M. Treat your loved ones and yourself this season. Shop in-store or at hm.com.
Maruchan superfans are everywhere. From the busy moms who want to deliver maximum flavor in a flash to dorm room diners who want to put some slurp in their step. There are a ton of copycats you could use. But if you want to bless your bowl, there's only one true Maruchan. Whether you choose instant lunch, ramen bowls, yakisoba, or restaurant quality gold, Maruchan is the only ramen worth obsessing over. Smiles for all. Maruchan. See what all the ramen hype is about at maruchan.com.
The kettle's boiled, Vic.
Great. Perfect timing. Just a dash of milk for me, please, mate.
Here you go. Shall we get started then?
Have you ever woken up on a Sunday morning and said, I'm never drinking again, and then found yourself waving $50 at a barman by happy hour?
Are you wondering why everyone else can stop at 1 while you head to a dodgy after-party with a weird bloke called Disco Dave? If so, it might be time to take a deeper look at your relationship with your reliable social crutch, alcohol.
On each episode, we'll investigate our own dysfunctional dealings with booze and find out if it's possible to stop this deeply ingrained habit before things get too messy.
Yep, we're going to open up a shame shed of humiliating drinking stories to help you understand why waking up from a booze coma each weekend with a kebab sticking out of your top pocket might actually be negatively impacting your health.
Hamish and I are here to delve into what it's like being sober, an unwanted warts and all look into why giving up those cheeky pints or putting down those mummy wines will make you feel happier, help your anxiety and mental health, and turn you into the most sparkly, authentic version of you.
Won't that mean I become boring though, Vic?
Well, Hamish, we'll just have to wait and see. I'm Victoria Vanstone.
I'm Hamish Adams-Cairns.
And this is Sober Awkward.
Okay, so it was New Year's Eve. We were in Bristol, and this mate of mine comes up to me. We're in a nightclub, and he goes, Hame, I don't want to panic you, but I think I'm blind. So I look at him. I say, buddy, your eyes are shut. And he opened his eyes, and the look of relief on his face, I'll never forget it. The look of relief. He looked around the nightclub. Oh, yes, I'm not blind. And then just wandered off back into the mosh pit.
How bizarre.
It was magic. If I say the word uni, though, what's the first thing that comes to mind for you, Vic?
Nothing.
Nothing.
No. I have very, very little memory of my time at university, Hamish. Nothing, really. The only thing I gained was a BA honours in being a total fuck-up. I think I'll tell you a bit more about that later.
Yeah, good. Please do.
Yeah. So, Alan, when you think about going to university, what do you think of?
Scabs.
Scabs? What do you mean?
Sausage, chips and beans in the canteen.
Scabs. Funnily enough, Alan and I went to the same uni for a while. We weren't mates, but he was doing a sound recording degree and I was studying film at Northbrook College near Worthing. Hello to my Northbrook College mates. But before that, I had a disastrous period at Luton University. In fact, it was only 4 months in which I was probably a drug-addled mess, Hamish.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't a good time. I just annoyed my flatmates. I was up all night. I had decks set up in the kitchen. I had a fog machine and a laser set up like in between the toaster and the kettle.
What?
Yeah, and they were all in bed studying, and I just used to think, oh, what boring fucks. I'm just going to stay up all night having a rave in the kitchen with friends from home who used to like sleep in the hallway. I was just that annoying flatmate who drank all the labelled milk and everybody else's food. They used to have to turn the electricity off in the whole apartment to get me to shut up. And then I'd be like, oh, God, what's wrong with you all? University's for having fun, not for going to bed. I just was of a completely different attitude to the rest of my flatmates. I remember the reason why, because my parents, when I filled in the form, it said, are you a smoker or a non-smoker? And my dad was looking over my shoulder, so I wrote non-smoker. So I ended up being in a halls of residence with loads of non-smokers, which at the time was annoying because I wanted to be with the smokers because I was a smoker, of course. Yeah. And so I think that led me to be in a halls of residence with loads of boring people, including my now husband.
He was in the same halls of residence?
Yeah, he was the room down from mine, yeah. John
Does he
was.
have any memories of your kitchen parties?
He doesn't have a lot of memories. All I know that was John and I used to hang around near the onion frying machine at about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
He was always drunk. I was always on drugs. So he was kind of passed out in his own vomit while I was kind of wide awake on ease.
Yeah.
So
Riveting conversation.
Yeah, so we
you
never
guys
used to really pass each other. And if we did, I don't think we could really remember. There is a photo of us having a cuddle. We never snogged or anything at uni. We were just mates, but we were very, very different. And he was a non-smoker, so I was like, oh, he's
Loser.
boring. Yeah, so it's terrible. I was just an awful person at university. I was a nightmare. I never went to any lectures. I wasn't known for timekeeping, academia, dependability, or any of those things, Hamish. All I was good for was a well-skinned up spliff and directions to the Exodus illegal raves.
Nice.
Yeah.
That story reminded me of a mate of mine. It was his first day at uni. He was in halls of residence as well. So the halls had a communal kitchen. And he went into the kitchen first day. I need to make new friends. And there was a guy there cooking on the frying pan. Hello, mate. Oh, hi. He goes, what are you cooking? And the guy just goes, ketamine. Oh.
Funny you say that, actually. All our knives, I remember, used to have like a burnt edge on them because we used to do this thing called hot knives, which was when you like heated up hashish on a knife and inhaled the smoke from it. Don't do that, like anybody listening. I was mental and I had mental health issues because of my behaviour at university. We are never ever saying any of these things are good. We are saying these are our experiences that have led us to have to be sober, which of course is brilliant, but they are not good things to be doing,
You're not
especially at
tuning
uni.
in to a sobriety podcast to hear ways to smoke hashish off a kniff.
Yeah. Although I do have some good ways if anyone wants to write to me.
There's another podcast.
Yeah,
We'll do
another
a separate podcast.
Yeah.
So I want my plan for this episode was that we will record it in bed in our pajamas, like surrounded by cold pizza. That was basically how I spent 90% of my uni.
With Countdown, did you watch Countdown at uni?
No.
I used to lie in bed watching Countdown. That was my favourite.
So yeah, we couldn't reinvent that. We are in a bedroom, but it is a children's bedroom.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we're halfway there.
Halfway there, yeah. I suppose, Hamish, what was meant to be the best years of our lives, for me anyway, it was mostly spent getting off my nut and doing really very little.
Yeah, sounds about right.
The best thing about this podcast is...
Getting to hang out with me.
No.
Time away from the kids.
Sort of.
Honing your pun writing skills.
Definitely, but also the amazing messages and emails we receive from you lot.
Without trying to be false modest, it does actually blow our minds that the two of us chatting rubbish in a child's bedroom can reach so many lives.
We put a lot of time and effort into making this a fun and supportive podcast, and it means the world to us when it reaches the ears of people that need help.
One such email that we received recently inspired me to write today's episode. This email came from a British man in his 20s who comes from Newcastle, which is where I was at uni. Without wanting to indulge too much about what he said, it gave me hope that the younger generation are strong enough to give up alcohol in the face of adversity.
Neither of us even knew that it was possible when we were that age to give up drinking. Although we have touched upon stupid things we got up to at uni and talked a little bit about sports initiations during these years, we have not, until today, focused an episode entirely on university.
Let me preface this episode by saying that we are speaking from a very privileged position. We both went to university, which is a situation that just over half of people in the UK are able to do, and just over 60% in the US.
Yeah, in my day, Hamish, most people went, I think, because it was free back then.
Yes, yeah, I went the last year that it was $3,000. So the year after I joined, it went from $3,000 to $9,000.
Yeah, it went up, didn't it?
trebled,
Yeah, you have to pay now in England, I know.
Is it? Yeah, is it still that much?
Yeah, I think it's a lot. It's quite a lot to go to uni. You actually end up going to uni, getting pissed, and ending up massively in debt.
Yeah.
So that would be another reason to turn to alcohol after university, is because you've pissed it all up the wall,
sure.
all this money, not learned anything, probably not got a degree, and then you come out in a dire financial situation.
But I wonder if it now actually being expensive makes people reassess. Like you said, it was free when you went, so everyone went.
Yeah, maybe I didn't care as much because no one was paying.
Yeah.
So I just it doesn't matter.
So yeah, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah,
it's obviously
interesting.
bad that it's not easy for everyone to do anymore.
No.
But there's definitely stories like yours when people just waste it.
Yeah, totally wasted it. I agree with you.
The reason that this is such an important phase of life to focus on with regards to drinking is that whereas the school years are when we are first introduced to booze and might even start establishing some drinking habits, university is when these habits can turn into a problem.
Are you ready for some college drinking stats in America, Hamish?
You know how to get me going.
Yeah, roughly 20% of college students meet the criteria for having an alcohol use disorder.
20%.
20%. Close to 60% of college students between the ages of 18 and 22 admit to drinking in the past month. Of those, nearly 2 in every 3 engaged in binge drinking. A little less than 2,000 college students ranging from 18 to 24 years old die from unintentional alcohol-related injuries each year. There were 2 people at uni when I was there and in Brighton that died from alcohol-related issues, acquaintances of mine that I knew. One guy fell off a wall after a night out and hit his head and died, and another girl I know fell down some stairs and passed away. So there you go. There's just 2 people that I know, and I think if alcohol hadn't been in play in those situations, that wouldn't have happened. These people would have gone on and led amazing lives. Like, it's the impact of alcohol at this age is massive, and also, I think we should say here how it affects people's behaviour in some of these colleges and some of these universities in the world is that people put themselves at risk and people take advantage of that, which is a huge issue when alcohol is in play as well.
Yeah. So let's begin by looking at why we drink so much at university before sharing a few stories of our own. So Vic, why did you drink to excess at uni?
I think there was a lot of pressure on me at that time. And at 18, there's a lot of choices to be made, Hamish, isn't there?
Yep.
I didn't know what I wanted out of life, so therefore it was easier to drink away the choices rather than deal with them. I'm sure my parents would have wanted me to go to university and go, right, I was doing a degree in marketing. I'd got through clearing, which means I'd failed all my A-levels and I just wanted to leave home. So I was just desperate to get out of the home because I hated my parents at that stage. We just weren't getting on. So that was the point that I chose to leave, not because I wanted to educate myself, but because I wanted to leave home. And there within lies the problem, doesn't it? Because I wasn't doing it to get a better education or to get a career. I was doing it just because I wanted to live somewhere else. So that was my first issue. Also, the societal pressures, my need to make friends, be fun, enjoy the best years of my life, as it were. It just was an easy way to cover up any insecurities that I had and just be that fun person.
Yeah.
There was no thought about education for me.
I think for me, a lot of it comes down to boredom, right? I mean, I literally chose modules. I did English literature and I chose modules that had the least lectures.
Yeah.
So I probably did 80 to 85% of my entire degree lying in bed, either reading the book or writing the essay, which was insane. And because of that lack of workload and the fact that university halls are bloody grim and actually university homes are equally awful.
Yeah.
So it's much nicer being out at a bar or a nightclub than having a night in.
True.
So to give you an idea, my bedroom in my last year at uni was the downstairs one. It was underneath the bathroom. For the entire year, if anyone had a shower in one of the 2 showers in our house, we had 6 guys living in it, water would run down my wall and into the radiator.
Yeah.
I called like our handyman, the landlady, every week, and nothing ever happened. I just had a shower on the inside of my bedroom every day for a year.
Isn't it funny how in those days, and that's not long ago for you really, what is that, not even 15 years ago?
Yeah, no.
Isn't that weird? Like, we were just accepting that if you're a student, you live in a shithole.
Yeah.
And it could be mould growing on the ceiling, rat droppings everywhere. Here it would be cockroaches. I remember some of the dives I lived in when I was a backpacker here. It's just disgusting. No one does any washing up. There's ashtrays all over the floor. Yeah. You just live in total squalor. It's like being in a squat, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know why. We're just all off our heads all the time. No one can be asked because everyone's hungover.
Yeah,
no one wants to clear up. And landlords were shit as well, weren't they?
Yeah.
It was like the young ones, wasn't it? All over again. You're probably too old. You're probably too young for the young ones. Okay, yeah. People listening will know what the young ones is. It's like an 80s show about with Adrian Edmondson about being a student in London, and it was just them just living in this horrible house and horrible people and just them doing nothing all day every day, which is basically what we did.
Well, I remember thinking, what's the point clearing up? We're only 2 days away all the time from another house party at ours.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
What's the point?
And you always had that one flatmate who was the tidy one, who'd just sort of be up early in the morning, sort of huffing and puffing in the kitchen, cleaning up after you, and
Yeah.
you just be looking at them going, God, stop doing that. It's just going to be messy again in an hour.
That was me. That was me. I can remember like coming down to go to a lecture in the morning quite often, and the night before party's still going on. I'd come into the living room and be like, fuck off, mate. You look fresh-faced.
Yeah.
It's 7 a.m. We're still partying. I'd be like offering everyone a cup of tea and a coffee, like, piss off. Get out. You're making us feel bad about our lives.
No game Hame at his best.
Yeah.
Dear, oh dear. And for me, it was my first taste of freedom. Like, I hadn't been getting on with my parents at that stage. I remember I'd driven my Morris Minor to university, and it was like, I remember driving towards, up the M4, up the, what is it? It's the M1, isn't it, that goes up to Luton, I think. And just thinking, this is it, I'm free, I'm moving out of home. And that feeling was amazing. And all I wanted to do with it was to carry on forever. Because there were no rules anymore. And for me, that was the best rebellion ever. And of course, it meant I could drink whenever I wanted to.
Yeah. I also think we're in this wasteful mindset because the money that we're spending often is borrowed or lent. Right? Either you're borrowing from university or a bank or a parent. And because you haven't earned it, you're in a wasteful frame of mind.
Yeah.
The only way that I can conceptualise this is if you walk past 20 quid on the floor.
Yeah.
You pick it up, like, let's spend it. You spend it immediately on anything.
Yeah.
And I actually think that's what winning the lottery would be like, is you get a massive amount of money, you didn't earn it, there's no value to it, so you just blow it.
Yeah.
And that's why, we went out every day.
Yeah.
You didn't earn the money, you didn't put the graft in.
No.
Piss, whatever, I'll repay it when I'm old and I'm earning money.
Yeah, it was like that I'll sleep when I'm dead sort of feeling, wasn't it? Yeah. You just get on with it. It's someone else's money. I'm spending free money here.
Yeah.
What was that money for? You got student loans. What was that money supposed to be spent on food? We just used to buy rice and pasta, a bit of cheese, eat once a day, and then spend the rest on going out to pound a pint Irish pubs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. It was good times.
It was good times, yeah.
I was covered in vomit for most of it, but it was good times. Universities are constructed to encourage drinking, I think, Hamish. Cheap drinks, as we said, those Irish pubs, sporting team traditions, which we talked about before. A night out every night. There was always something going on.
Yeah.
Do you remember Freshers' Week? You'd turn up and it would just be like this week long of party. I couldn't believe it. It was like my idea of heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, Monday night is this night
70s
club.
night.
Yeah. Every
Brilliant.
night.
Yeah. The best.
Brilliant. You're selling universities
Well,
here, bro.
I'm just putting myself back into that time, like how I loved it.
Yeah.
It was just because it was just purely drinking time. I didn't have to do anything. I'd just stay in bed all day. There was no one there to tell me to get up, no one to tell me off. I could do whatever I wanted for the first time. There was no authority.
Well, that's it. I think we were too young to make smart choices.
Yeah.
That's an excuse, actually. We were too young to make smart choices, but that's not an excuse for not making smart choices, if that makes sense.
I wasn't capable of making smart choices, Hamish, because my brain was so pickled from alcohol. I wasn't capable of learning anything. I was unmotivated and lazy, too busy drinking and trying to be cool. I wonder if we'd have gotten on at university.
I don't know.
Not if you were the one cleaning the ashtrays out at 7 o'clock in the morning.
I don't know if we would have done. I think I've only know the sober you. So I think when you tell these stories, I'm intrigued and afraid in equal measure. So I reckon we would have been great mates at uni. We would have had some wild nights out. And then I reckon I'd have finished uni and be like, right, now the serious part of my life needs to start. Obviously, friends like Vic have to hit the wayside. She's going to drag me down and I'm being grown up now.
That's probably why I don't see many of my old uni mates anymore. They probably thought, God, got to run away from her. I think I would have probably have avoided me too. I don't blame you, Hamish.
Sorry.
Shall we share a little bit about our own time at university?
Yes.
Well, as you can tell, mine was very short and sweet. I was the pound a pint girl.
How short?
4 months.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, 4 months, the Luton legend. My parents actually dropped me off. I have mentioned this on the podcast before because it is relevant. And there is a chapter in my book about it. My parents dropped me off at university with a crate of beer. And I put a sign on my door that said free beer here. And that
Luton
was
legend hat
the
on.
Luton legend, yeah. So I set myself up from the first day to have a reputation, to go, look, here I am. This is where the party's at. You don't need to come here if you're going to be educating yourself. I've got free beer. Let's get this party off. Let's get this party started.
Yeah.
And looking back now, I do think that is a bit of a sad story. I was too busy trying to get people to like me. That's what that was about. Like saying, come here, look at me, I'm fun. Like, whereas I should have gone, look at me, look, let's read a book together or something. But I just wasn't on my card.
Free
wasn't on the
books.
cards. Yeah, free
Imagine
books.
that.
Yeah, imagine all the swotty nerds that would turn. You would have
I've
been
got
there.
all the Harry Potters and all the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Hamish. Oh, I heard you're reading books in here. Can I join your club? True.
Free board games.
Yeah, Sudoku club. I was definitely too busy wanting people like me, as I said. Education was not on my mind. I stayed there 4 months. My story is very sad, Hamish, because I left the day after a girl came up to me and said, hi, you're Vicky. You're the one that takes loads of drugs and is off her tits all the time.
Whoa.
It was somebody that I'd never met, came up to me at a nightclub. I'd just snorted a line of coke off a deck.
Sure.
And I had granules dripping out of my nose, and this girl that I'd never met basically told me I had a reputation there. And I didn't know. I thought everyone just thought I was funny and cool. I never had someone pulled me up on my partying until that point. That was the first time in my life somebody said, what you're doing is not okay, in some sort of subliminal way. And it shook me to the core, so much so that I went home and I packed my bags and I left the next day. Wow. But actually what I did do is pack my problems into the car and drive them down the M4 and carry on partying in a different location.
So when you left uni, you still lived out of home? You just moved somewhere else?
I moved home. I had massive
did move
arguments
home.
with my parents, and then I ran away to Brighton.
Yeah.
Which is where my behaviour actually became worse. Because I didn't have any help. I didn't know what I was doing was wrong. I could see that somebody else thought it was wrong, but of course I didn't know how to stop.
Yeah.
I needed some sort of intervention because I was really spiralling out of control at that time in my life. And there wasn't anyone. I ran away from the person that told me I had a problem.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't face it at that stage. So I ended up in Brighton, which I loved. You know, my drug taking spiraled out of control. I was taking drugs every weekend and my drinking got worse. I was working in pubs down there. Eventually I went back to uni. I studied a script writing course where Alan went, and a film course. But I was indulging too hard at that time. You know, I was going to see Fatboy Slim. You know, I got arrested. My panic set in. And my body started to rebel against what I was doing, which eventually led to me moving home.
Did you finish uni the second time?
I did. I got an HND in film and script writing.
So I guess in that in-between stage when your drinking went up, you're probably labelling yourself as like, I couldn't even finish uni, which is a piss up.
Yeah.
And then that would... You know, that kind of negative self-talk probably escalates drinks and drugs, right?
Yeah, and also felt like I was letting everybody down all the time. Like coming home and saying to my parents, right, I've left university, even though it's been this huge thing. Off she goes, drop her off, we're very proud. And then I had to drive home and say, it's not for me. And then the behaviour got worse and I ended up leaving home, not talking to my parents for probably more than a year or two. And then getting worse because of the guilt I felt over that and not knowing that what I was doing was wrong. And of course, that led to me being mentally unwell. So my time in Brighton was, when I look back, I go, yeah, I had fun and there were the best times of my years. But eventually that led to me being so mentally ill that I had to move home for a year and see a doctor because I had severe anxiety. So my university days led to me having mental health issues, actually, Hamish, which is quite serious. And I'm sure it happens to a lot of people.
For sure.
I wonder if I'm alone in this. I don't think I am. I went off the rails at this crucial time of my life, the time of my life when I should have been educating myself and learning and finding out what I was and what I should do with my life. I spent destroying myself.
Well, I think that's the pressure. I think, you know, your university years are, in inverted commas, the best days of your life. Everyone keeps telling you that. Oh my God, you're so carefree. You haven't got a job and you're old enough to live out of home and it's the best time ever. And I think for lots of people it is, but for probably the same amount of people have got stories like yours where it leads to issues of drink, it leads to mental health problems. It's like a highly anxious, because school is comfortable for a lot of people. It's a small classroom of people you've known for a long time. You can be a big fish in a small pond. Yeah. And uni is like all of your skills of being social and making friends put to a test. Like suddenly you're no one in a city rather than a school. Yeah,
you got to prove yourself in that situation. Yeah, and the only way I knew how to prove myself was by drinking and taking drugs. And being loud. Here I am. Be friends with me. I'm cool. Yeah. Yeah, and I'd had that heartbreak of my two best friends recently, like since between 16 and 18. I had felt a sense of heartbreak with mates. So, of course, the only thing I wanted to do was make new mates, and I didn't know another way of doing it. Yeah. What about you?
Okay, so for me, uni was fueled by cheap drinks, like many of us. At Newcastle, it was Trebles bars, which I've spoken about.
Oh, yes, the Trebles bar.
Trebles bars. So if you
Triple shots.
haven't heard us talking about that, it is Trebles bars would sell you 3 treble vodka Red Bulls, not Red Bull, obviously, cheap alternative, for £4. So you get 9 shots for £4.
That is bonkers. That should be illegal. That is out of control.
Well, they did put it up to £5 during my time there, and there was riots. People were upset about that. And these Trebles bars were opposite a club we used to go to where the Jaeger bombs were £1. So you'd have had 10 shots before you're in a nightclub, basically. And I never remember, my whole time there, I can never remember the walk from the Trebles bar to the club. It was probably a 5-minute walk. Literally, I've never remembered it.
I'm not surprised.
No.
Wow.
And then K-cider. I spoke to you about K-cider?
Yes, I think so.
K-cider
Strong cider.
often, sadly, is what if you walk past somebody homeless in the UK, it's often K-cider they're drinking. It's about 9% strength. It's very cheap. It's in a black can with a red K on it. And there are literally videos on YouTube of people who've locked themselves in a room and drunk like 6 of them and then just filmed them going off their nut.
It's not good.
K-cider, yes. Vicious stuff. I've not had one since uni, which is
probably a good idea.
Relief.
Is it still available, is it?
Yeah, in England, yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
right.
Yeah, not here. And so, that was like the fuel. So that was what I was drinking. And then add that to boredom, okay? So uni, there's not a lot to do. I played a lot of FIFA. You watched a lot of Countdown. I remember a couple of examples of this. We were so bored. We were like, we should go to Edinburgh. Mate, people go to uni in Edinburgh. It's probably a cool town. We drove to Edinburgh. Talk about making no plans. We drove to Edinburgh, which is from Newcastle, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 hours, I'm not sure. Then we got there and we're like, we've got nowhere to stay. So we looked at a hostel. The hostel was too expensive. Let's drive back to Newcastle.
God,
I don't think we even got out of the car. Just drove there, drove back. There was one point in my first year at uni where I didn't go outside for 12 days.
Why?
So our uni hall, it was snowing, it was like January.
Right.
Thick snow in Newcastle. Our university halls would give us lunch.
Right.
So was it breakfast? No, just lunch. So, and there was one way that I could walk to the sort of cafeteria of my bedroom without going outside. So I did the long walk round. I had 12 days, snowing every day. First, let's establish this. In England, the first year at uni doesn't count towards your degree. You need to get 40% just to get through, and then your second and third year are what count towards your degree. Your third year often counts for twice as much as your second year. So your first year is literally a joke. Get 40%. Which is a wild way for it to be set up.
It is wild.
Yes, you're not going to any lectures. For me, it was snowing, so why would I go outside? So 12 days I didn't go outside.
But that 40%, it's like saying, don't worry, this year you can get wasted.
Yeah.
That is absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Just carry on, do what you want to do. This doesn't matter. I mean, there must be so much money going down the drain and brain cells going in that
wild,
first
isn't it?
year.
And
Like, what's the
particularly,
point?
you're just coming off a gap year, most of you, which has already been a year of not doing a lot.
Yeah.
Like I worked a job for 6 months, then travelled for 6 months. Like you're already in this mindset of not doing a lot, and then you just cruise through first. Why would you try in your first year?
But why don't they just shove that year into another year? So you
Yeah.
just go to uni for 2 years
Yeah.
rather than just like having this big wasteful year where in fact you probably get a bit of a booze problem.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So you create the booze problem in the first year. The second year you might get a drug problem. Third year rehab.
Yeah, perfect, isn't it? That's
Yeah,
the university.
That'd be a better setup.
If you would like to support the Sober Awkward podcast, we're excited to announce that we've joined Patreon. Patreon is a membership platform which allows you to give back for the content you love.
By buying Sober Awkward a cuppa once a month, we can keep the giggles coming and continue sharing our sobriety message.
By joining Patreon, you get access to Sober Awkward merch, extra content, special promos and loads more. Just find the link in the show notes or head to patreon.com and search for Sober Awkward.
And together we can learn how to feel the awkward and do it anyway.
Talking about that trip to Edinburgh, like I spent a lot of my university years travelling around to other mates at other unis. You sort of partied in your town, you want to go to the other ones. So most of my mates went to Durham, Bristol, Manchester, Leeds and Dublin. So I spent, basically 3 years travelling around these 5 cities. I couldn't tell you a single thing about any of those cities. We literally used to go, get drunk, come back. Like there was a trip we went to Manchester. So my mate, it was his birthday and his favourite DJ was Ricardo Villalobos. And he was playing at this warehouse. And it was like, we've got to go. It's his birthday. Ricardo's playing. We got to the nightclub early. And then he got caught trying to sneak a mate of his into the club through the smoking area. He got kicked out. we all left as well as like a sign of solidarity on his birthday. Didn't even see Ricardo Villalobos. Got home, partied at home. He was like depressed because he missed it. Went to sleep. Woke up the next morning. This happened to me in Manchester a few times. I've woken up in the morning, looked around and been like, we need to go. We're meant to stay here 2 nights. After one night, I'm like, it's grey. We're in a horrible university house.
Oh, with
Always
a hangover.
was raining, with a hangover.
Oh.
So we need to get back to Newcastle.
Awful.
That happened a lot. And in Dublin was bad. Dublin, we had 4 mates who all lived in the same house, who had birthdays in the same week as Paddy's Day.
Messy.
So we went every year. We went for 4 birthdays and Paddy's Day in a week. And yeah, just and they were still at uni. Like their uni didn't break up till the week after Paddy's Day, which is insane. God. And ours was earlier. So like 30 of us would go to Dublin.
How did you survive that? I remember those ones where it was someone's birthday, then a big night out, and then somebody else's birthday. It was almost like a wedding, you know. It's like you have to force yourself into drinking the next day, even though every bone in your body is saying, please don't pour alcohol on me. Yeah. You still hair of the dog in the morning, at the pub or over your fry up. It's just like, right, we've got to get back on this now. That feeling, I just knew it was wrong to drink when I was that hungover, but I thought at that age there was no other option. Of course there was.
Yeah, but you think we're all in this together. Like this is how we bond. That's what you're thinking. Yeah. When we get drunk, this is how we bond. When we're hungover, like we'll bond over the fact we all feel bad. Like you just put like the collective bonding is more important than like what's this doing to my health. Yeah,
so true.
And then like on those trips as well, there's one injury story I need to tell. So we had a mate of ours visiting from Leeds, and I can remember at the place he did £1 Jaeger bombs, and he took a step back. He's a big boy, he's a rugby playing boy, and he took a step back, got hit by a taxi in front of us.
Oh, no.
He flipped over the hit the windscreen over the top, landed on the other end, and actually weirdly because he was drunk and completely loose.
Oh yeah,
totally
bounced.
Totally fine, yeah.
Yeah,
No
gosh.
problem. Got hit
Some
by a car on
well,
night out. And we carried on.
Lucy got
hit
hit by a car and landed on... Yeah, Lucy got hit by a car when she was drinking one night and she got hit and then landed like a cat on all fours, got up and walked away and told the driver to fuck off.
Yeah.
She's got a funny story about that. It's crazy the things we did at uni. I mean... Funnily enough, you mentioned Manchester. I had a night out in Manchester. It was supposed to be a night out with my mate, Nikki Scott. Hi, Nikki. We went to Canal Street, which is this big area of Manchester where there's all that kind of really good gay nightclubs and stuff. And I remember the night starting, and then I remember it was 3 days later. Yeah. I don't remember anything in between. I just remember being in all these clubs, having a good time, sort of like flashcards of a night out, that's it. Yeah. And I just remember thinking, wow, that was a good night out. And then Nikki saying that we've been out for 3 days.
Oh, my God.
And that was my night out in Canal Street, one night. Yeah.
3 nights.
God, isn't that bonkers? Yeah. What was I doing? I mean, really, seriously, Hamish, what was I doing? Yeah. Can you imagine? God, how did I survive that?
The stories that we've missed out on. Imagine the stories from that night we could have included in the podcast.
I think amyl nitrate was involved. Do you know amyl nitrate?
No, tell me.
It's that thing that you sniffed in a bottle that made you...
Oh, poppers.
Yeah, poppers, yeah. That has got to be so bad for you, that stuff. What even is that?
Yeah.
Oh, anyway, we mentioned at the start of the episode that we were inspired by one of the emails we received, an email from someone in their 20s who decided to give up alcohol. Even the idea of this was alien to us growing up, despite the warning signs, the injuries, the hangovers, the lack of memories, and the run-ins with the police. Neither of us even thought of giving up. The question is why?
Well, it's easy to make up excuses for ourselves, but the truth is we didn't see anyone else doing it, so we had nobody to model off. Now, I know that's a cop-out, but I think there's an element of truth to it.
There so is. If everyone's doing something, why would you look outside of that?
Yeah.
There's no need to, is there? I had a lack of a better idea of how to fill the time. I wasn't creative because my mind was stunted by alcohol, which I realise now in sobriety. I stunted all my creativity. Mm-hmm. So I had no idea of how to fill the time. What else was I going to do? When I wasn't watching Countdown, I was drinking. Yeah. I was recovering.
And trying hard is what the nerds did.
Yeah, trying hard was the losers.
Yeah.
Yeah. The losers were my goal people. I realise that now.
Right.
I wanted to be them.
Yeah.
So therefore I knew I couldn't. So therefore I shunned them like a horrible bully.
Yeah. Well, that happens a lot, right? When you speak to people about being sober, people often react badly because they maybe want to be sober and you're doing the thing that they want.
Yeah, because they feel they can't do it.
Yeah.
So therefore you shun the thing that you think you can't do.
We were not mature enough to realise that we were lucky to be at uni and should be focusing our time and energy on getting the best possible grades. in short, we were spoilt little brats. Now, I feel this a lot about uni.
Yeah.
Like, so I remember, like I said, when I went, there were fees, and my dad paid the fees.
Right, so that would ensue some guilt.
Guilt, for sure. I was like, what a prick. Like, I cruised uni. I got more than 40% in the first year, but not a lot more. And then the way it's set up in England is you get a first, which is 70% plus, a 2-1 is 60% plus, and the mindset is a 2-1 is good enough. Get 2-1 and get a job.
Yeah.
And I can remember, like doing the maths and being like, right, I need to get not that much to get 2-1. I did well in my second year. If I do well in my dissertation, then I can cruise the rest and get 2-1. That was my mindset on something that I wasn't paying for. Like, so spoiled. Yeah, I have shame about that for sure.
Yeah.
Not trying my hardest. There was another guy at uni with us who wasn't crazy smart, but he tried seriously hard and he got a first. And I'm thinking, I could have got a first. But that's not the mindset.
Not the mindset. It's not
2-1
the
is
mindset.
enough. The first year's a joke. Just do what everyone else is doing.
It's just about winging it for me. Like, if drink's involved and drugs and you're a people pleaser, those three things are going to mean you're trying to wing your time through education because you're distracted by the party and you want to be doing something else. So you've got to get the work done to be able to go out. I remember my mate Vic. Hello, Vic. I'm mentioning all my mates that I owe apologies to. She wrote my dissertation for me.
Really?
Yeah. I had to do at film college. I had to do a dissertation. I think I did it on the film Scarface. And she wrote this amazing dissertation for me and gave it to me. Yeah,
What?
Yeah. Thank you, Vic, for
Did
doing
you
that
pay
for
her?
me. No, she just did it for me. I was struggling. She was like, "Oh, I'll help you." She wrote the whole thing on one of those.
She
Do you remember
does
those
deserve a shout
typewriters?
out.
Do you remember those electric typewriters you had
Yeah.
to use? Yeah. We didn't have computers when I was at university.
Wow.
I had electric typewriters that you put paper in the back of.
Who is this lady?
Yeah, Vic. She lives in Perth. She's my mate.
You're still
Lives in Margaret
friends?
River. Yeah.
She bought
Yeah.
like a lifetime of friendship doing a dissertation.
Yes, she sure did.
Good on her.
Yeah. Drugs and alcohol were the fuel of building friendships and relationships when I was at university. In short, they were considered what the cool kids did. Would we be liked if we were sober at uni, Hamish? I'm not so sure.
I know. Well, I've got a story to tell here, which I went for a walk with a friend in Sydney last week, and he said to me he's not sure if he's going to give up alcohol forever or not, but either way, he's got no regrets about his drinking years based on the friendships he made and the memories he created. And I sort of, he obviously isn't a problem drinker, so I guess I can understand that mindset. And actually the fact that mindset, I'm sure thousands of people would agree with, sort of shows up how broken the system is.
Yeah, it is.
I
and that's the
can
problem with
see why I
uni.
said that.
You've summed it up right there, Hamish. Alcohol is normalised at university, as it is in various workplaces and various countries and various activities. It is normalised. So therefore, if something is normalised in your environment, it makes it okay. And at university, it made it okay. Whereas really, your friend would have experienced a much, much better time at university if he'd been sober. I can assure you 100% that would have been the case, like I would have done. I would have had better friendships. I would have finished. I would have stayed. I would have had bonding situations with people that I would remember, whereas the bonding situations that I had were rowdy and riotous and nothing but me dribbling on a stranger. That was as far as it went. So looking back, I regret not being present and alert at uni.
Another reason that we probably didn't stop drinking at uni was the fact that we didn't think it was weird or even a problem yet. Like you said, society said it was normal. This is what uni is all about, but that's all the convincing we needed.
Yeah.
We weren't looking for a reason to get out. Have any of your mates from uni, I know you weren't that too long, have any of them gone on to have a problem with alcohol?
I'm sure they probably have. I have no idea. I wasn't there long enough, and I didn't keep in touch with anybody because my bonds weren't that strong because I was drunk. So therefore, I do have some mates from uni, a couple of them, but I wouldn't say they're my best mates in the world because I was off my head and the bonding wasn't real. Yeah. If I'd been sober, I bet you I'd still be great friends with those people.
Well, I've got a couple, definitely one who's gone on to have a problem with drinking. And, I guess that it's a culmination of 2 years. It's your gap year, if you took one, which is very booze heavy. Then that first year of uni, which doesn't mean anything, is booze heavy. And then second and third year, inevitably, it takes a pretty strong-minded person to get your head back on track and work really hard when you've had 2 years of getting pissed every day.
And then you probably normalise it. You don't realise that you're doing it after university. It's become so normal in that environment. Then you go into another environment, no matter what job you do, and you're probably subliminally seeking out jobs that have a culture within them because you want to carry on the only thing that you know how to do. It's really interesting, isn't it? It's like a domino effect.
I can remember, loads of my mates went into insurance.
Right.
And they tell you about how Fridays you're at the pub at midday and you don't go back to the office and it's on the company card. And I can remember thinking, amazing. I never wanted to work in insurance, but I remember thinking any job that you're whining and dining on a company card and getting pissed in a pub during the working day is like the ultimate.
I remember at 16 doing my work experience in London at an advertising agency. Same thing. I was like, I want to be in advertising. All they do is drink all day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the only job I got at uni was in a comedy club.
Yeah.
You could drink on the job.
Yeah, God. So that's what I mean. We were searching it out. So perhaps if we'd been sober earlier, we'd be searching out better careers that didn't involve us drinking. It's odd. It would be easy for us to rehash the usual suspects like the promiscuity, the injuries, the blackouts, the shameful actions and the hangover anxiety. But there is actually something far more serious bubbling away under all of that.
I actually discovered a study on the addictioncenter.com which completely rocked me with 2 facts. The first is this. Individuals in their early to mid-20s are the most likely to abuse alcohol and suffer from alcohol use disorders. The younger that an individual starts consuming alcohol, the more likely they are to develop alcoholism later in life. This is especially true of individuals who start drinking before 15.
So rather than being encouraged to drink at uni, we should be warned about the risks of developing an addiction. I mean, that is never mentioned at uni, is it?
It's so
Not
obvious.
once do you have a warning at the beginning in that Freshers Week about alcohol.
No.
Not once. Would we have listened, though? That's the question.
We wouldn't have.
Probably not. No.
We'd have thought they were a loser for saying it. The second fact, though, this is even worse. I honestly couldn't believe this. It says, the more highly educated an individual is, the more likely they are to consume alcohol. Okay? In the US, 80% of college graduates drink. Only 52% of individuals with no college education drink alcohol.
So therefore, the pressure that they're putting themselves to work hard, to play hard, it all leads to consuming more at university, of course. We're not the smart ones, we're the dummies, Hame.
That comes as no surprise to anyone who's listened to this podcast.
Yeah, that's true. Bottom-based humour.
Yeah.
So other than avoiding a potentially lifelong drinking habit, what other benefits might we have profited from if we'd had a sober university life?
Okay, the obvious one, better grades.
Of course, yeah, we would have.
Finishing altogether.
Or A grade.
Yeah. Just a D. Just a D would have been enough.
Just a D would have been good, yeah. Just anything. I'm sure we both have friends that we got wasted with who would have fallen by the wayside as we grew up.
100%. The opportunity to enjoy everything that uni had to offer. So I did student radio and I was in a bagpipe band at the start, but thank you, yeah. But neither of them lasted. Yeah, I never joined a sporting team.
Did you blow out of steam? Did you run out of steam?
Good.
Oh God, there's a bagpipe joke in there, but I can't quite get it.
But yeah, I think in my first year, I remember doing all those things and looking at the activities you can sign up to and the sports you can sign up to. And by the second and third year, that's too much effort.
Yeah, I remember John saying the same thing. He was in all the sports team, the rugby team in the first year. And then afterwards, he never used to show up because he was always hungover. And then it's like, well, why would I bother? So you actually stop doing the things that you've gone there to do.
It's wild, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, for me, I did student radio and you sign up and that day they say, right, you do Monday on 6 p.m. and you're on air. It then took me like 11 years to get back on air.
God.
And then
and
sport.
That was your passion.
That was my passion. And then sport... now trying to organise 22 mates to meet up on a weekend and play any kind of sport, it doesn't happen. I don't know. We live near a tennis court here. I don't know anyone who plays tennis.
No.
You can't
I'll play tennis.
Yeah, no, I don't want to play with you.
I like tennis.
No, we're going to have a frisbee match soon. Actually.
Oh yeah, frisbee. Yeah, we'll do that. We'll stick to that.
Yeah.
We might have actually remembered the best time of our lives.
Yeah. Both of us, very hazy memories.
Very hazy days.
For you, 4 months. For me, 3 years.
Yeah.
We would have set the example to anyone else questioning their alcohol consumption.
Yes, imagine seeing someone that's sober at uni when you were considering it. That would have been extremely helpful and very rare.
Well, that's what this dude that emailed us is probably.
He is doing that.
Yeah.
What a star. We would have built up immense self-confidence from a very young age. Saying no when everyone around us is saying yes would have been absolutely incredible. Still putting yourself out there, clubbing and socialising, but doing it all sober would have been massive back then. Huge respect from your peers for doing this. I mean, imagine... I did have mates that were sober, and I just thought they were so weird. Like, how did you do that? My mate Dana in America, she was sober throughout the whole time we travelled together. I just couldn't understand it. I couldn't believe that she could do that. It was she was amazing to me.
I actually would have explored the cities that I visited and have spent the booze money on something more memorable.
Yeah.
Open-top bus tours.
Yes.
Always a hit.
Always a hit. Less shame about the wasted opportunity, like you with your guilt and your parents paying for uni, and me, not feeling like I was living up to what my parents wanted. I felt a lot of guilt and shame, and that would have led to more drinking. So it's a whole salad bowl of mixed up emotions and feelings and pressures and everything that's going on. It makes us drink at that age, which is a shame because there's a lot going on at that age, and you don't have to drink through it, people. Like, you can do this sober. It's really important to say that. It will be a much better experience.
It's pretty wild that, those are the years where you're meant to, what is university for? I think university is for growing up. People think 18, you're too young to enter the real world. So growing up, it's for finding out what you want to do with your life, and it's like getting the grades to take that step into finding your first job. And actually, they're the years where we get pissed more than the other year.
Yeah,
and
it's actually reversing all of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Sadly, we don't get to wind back the wheels of time and redo life. But if you could, Vic, how would you have spent your uni years?
I would have gone.
Sure. Yeah, actually attended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gutted that I didn't know better and missed the opportunity to educate myself and turn up for lectures and be present with my friends and all of those things we've discussed. That lifestyle destroyed my mental health, a battle that nearly broke me. It took a few years for me to get over all of that. I just didn't know another way of behaving, in which in turn I obliterated any chances of doing a career. Of course, I'm doing something now that's cool, whereas if I hadn't done all those things, I wouldn't be doing this podcast, which I love, or writing a book. I wouldn't have stories. So there is something to be said for that as well. But I just went travelling and never came back, and I had no qualifications in the end. I think it was my people-pleasing ways that overtook my own mental health, and in the end I hit a wall, and actually I had to move home and get my parents to pick me up. It was awful. I wish, Hamish, that I could go back and give that party girl a bit of a cuddle, because I think she was really, really lost, and I'd tell her to stop and calm down and go to class and stop the spiral before it destroys the next 20 years of your life. I know it's serious, Hamish, but your stats are 100% right. That period of boozing and trying to impress everyone and making friends and all of that pressure at uni, it led me down a dark path. But I guess, I do have some good stories from it.
You do have good stories, but would your book be better written if you'd studied at uni? Imagine the beginning, middle, end, the structure, the bibliography, the reference.
It would be better read as someone who was an intellectual, but the stories would be very dull.
Yeah, true. Maybe the juice is worth the squeeze.
It is, it's true. I regret not appreciating university, really, is what I'm trying to say, Hamish. I think university is a chance to find out what you love, who you are, and what you want out of life. An opportunity to allow your mind to grow, and I did the reverse. I shrank my brain and therefore had to wait because I was too distracted by booze. Mm-hmm. What about you?
I think, honestly, if uni was still set up the way it was then today, and I think it probably is in terms of that first year not counting, in terms of getting a 2-1 being good enough, so to speak, I think I'd have given it a miss. Yeah, I quite happily have not done uni. I don't know if I regret going to uni, but it was just a piss off. Like that is all that it was. There was nothing more to it than getting drunk for 3 years.
Yeah.
So I think, if I was going to wind back the wheels of time, I just wouldn't have done it. And particularly for me...
Or you would have done it sober.
Or done,
if you could have done.
Yeah, if I'd been brave enough. If I'd have been a big enough character to do it sober, I would have done.
Yeah.
But I think particularly for me, because I during my gap year, so you've already applied for uni and signed up and stuff when you leave for your gap year. But doing your gap year is when I figured out what I wanted to do with my life, which was to present TV and radio. And actually, I knew then that nothing I was going to learn at uni was going to help me with that. I was doing English lit at uni.
But yet you still do it because it's kind of expected of you.
I'd already signed up, And I guess the mindset is, well, you need a fallback. Like, you've got to have a degree because you might have to get a real job at some point. So actually, either not have done it at all or I don't think 20-year-old me could have not done it drinking.
I think it's a funny time to go to uni. I think you should go at 25 or 30. Like the most successful people I know go back to uni later on in life. And some of the most successful people I know are people that started a trade when they were 16 and carried that trade on going throughout their lives, carpentry or whatever it might be, or being a plumber or something. Those are the jobs that, you start earning money early on and you build your way up and go up the ladder. Whereas at uni, you come out, you've got a degree, and then you've still got to go through the same process as everyone else and feeling not good enough and feeling like your qualification isn't anything to do with what you want to do. So I think what we're saying here, is go to uni. It's a great opportunity, but do it, try and do it well.
Yeah.
Don't miss out on it. And if you want to educate yourself in something, do it sober, because you're not going to remember it otherwise. Otherwise, it's going to be a total waste of time and money.
Yeah.
And you're going to end up in loads of debt and feeling like shit and guilty because you didn't fulfill the thing that you wanted to do. It's easy for us to say that now.
Yeah, it's too late.
It's too late for us.
Too late, and we wouldn't listen to us.
I mean, I might go back to university one day and study something. I would love to actually study creative writing, like you've just said, and make sure all my commas are in the right place rather than having an editor do it, Like, I would love to go back and expand my mind a bit more without taking hallucinogenic drugs.
Sure. Well, it'd be actually interesting to talk to that guy that sent that email once he's finished uni and be like, what was it like sober?
Yeah.
Because his experiences would be so different to ours.
I bet you he'd say he enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I bet you.
Imagine the time he had on his hands.
Yeah. You have
Unreal.
to email us. He knows who he is. He knows that
he'll
email.
know.
The one that made me cry at the airport.
Yeah.
I did respond to him and say, I'm at the airport and I'm crying. Your
did
email
you?
was so lovely. Yeah, it was so
what a
moving.
legend.
Yeah. So if you're at uni and you find yourself taking the first step down a dangerous drinking path, feel free to reach out. Find some professional help. Find our community on Cuppa and send us an email at vicandhamish@soberawkward.com.
If you've given up or are even thinking about it, you are already a far stronger person than either of us were at that age. So share your story and inspire others too. I think we end with a quote. I think the fact that this is a Robert Downey Jr. quote maybe shows that we didn't really listen. There should be like Nietzsche or like Descartes or Van Gogh. It's flipping Robert Downey Jr. But it is a good quote.
We like a good quote from a celeb. A sober celeb. He's a sober celeb,
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yes, he's definitely sober.
Yeah.
Well, don't you remember, there's a famous picture of him in jail. He was really off his head. I think he was on drugs and booze, and he got arrested, didn't he, Robert Downey Jr.? But his career has gone from strength to strength since he gave up everything. So he's a good example.
So he's a sober legend.
Yeah.
Okay, go. I think that power is the principle. The principle of moving forward as though you have the confidence to move forward eventually gives you confidence when you look back and see what you've done.
Okay, yes. Quite confusing, that one.
It is quite confusing, actually. I
Did
must
you
have
choose
read
that
that when I was smart, and I've
You'll
got
have
dumber.
you have to explain that one to me after the podcast.
If you get that, email us at vicandhamish@soberawkward.com.
The principle, confidence and principle.
Basically, be sober at uni is what he's saying, and see what that's like.
Robert Downey Jr. says, "Be good at uni."
Yeah, try hard.
Try harder, and stop drinking. The end. Farewell, everybody. If you're questioning your relationship with booze, you're struggling to moderate, or your hangovers are causing anxiety, it might be time to reach out for some support.
Yeah, just talk to a mate about how you're feeling, contact a local doctor, find an AA or sobriety group. Vic's got one.
Yeah, just head to www.cuppa.community.
Remember, if you're questioning yourself, it might be time to seek support.
Even though this journey can be awkward, it is definitely worth it. And if you've enjoyed the Sober Awkward podcast, don't forget to review it, rate it, and share it with your mates.
Do they have to share it with their mates?
Yeah, of course they do. I'm not doing this for nothing, Hamish. Bloody hell.
How do they share it?